Hey guys, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani here. Today's video is going to be why gut infections screw up your digestion. We'll kind of dive into the underlying mechanisms as we go through the video here. Before we do, smash that like button. Really appreciate it. Put your comments down below. Really want to know your thoughts on this as well. And hit that bell so you get notifications of great new content coming your way. So anytime you create stress, so there's emotional stress, kind of like outward things happening in the world, happening in your brain, life, relationships, finances, that can obviously impact your nervous system. That can create a sympathetic nervous system response, kind of that fight or flight. Gas pedal, right, is going to be the sympathetic fight or flight. The brake, the relaxation, the slow down, that's the parasympathetic. So any outward stressors can cause more a gas pedal, which is that sympathetic kind of fight or flight nervous system response, and that allocates resources. Those resources go to the arms, the legs, to fight, to flee, to run, to deal with stress, and that blood flow moves away from the intestinal tract, thus decreasing digestive secretions, hydrochloric acid levels, and enzyme levels as well. Because why? When you're dealing with stress, your body doesn't want to be worrying about digesting and breaking down foods, right? So there's that component. Then we have internal stress. So of course, when stress is closer to the intestinal tract, i.e. H. pylori or SIBO, bacterial overgrowth, gut infections, fungal overgrowth, the more we have stress close to the intestinal tract, it's going to have a major effect on how we digest and break down foods. So we know that when we're stressed emotionally, we tend to not have an appetite. You get in a fight with your spouse, you don't want to eat. You're like, my appetite's done. It's spoiled, right? You watch a scary scene on TV, you're stressed, your appetite goes away. Well, now when you have inflammation in your intestinal tract from maybe gluten or some processed sugar or grains, right? That's creating stress. And maybe we have internal stress from H. pylori or an infection like I mentioned earlier. All of these stressors summate. So when you add a bunch of these stressors and you stack them up, it can create internal stress in the gut, and that activates the fight or flight sympathetic nervous system response, and then your enzyme levels drop, your acid levels drop. And remember, acids, they help with digestion, they activate proteolytic enzymes, they also make it hard for bacteria and critters to grow because a nice low pH it's like bleach on the picnic table. It cleans things up, it sterilizes, it also makes it hard for bacteria to grow. It's very important, right? It's like you take birth control pills for females do, and it can alkaline the pH in the vaginal tract, increasing chance of yeast infection. We see that there as well. But pH plays a very important role. Lower pH, more acidic, especially in the stomach, makes it harder for critters to grow. Also, bile salts are activated via a nice low pH too, and bile salts, they are naturally antimicrobial. They break down fat, emulsify fat, but they also have a natural antimicrobial effect. That's why low bile salts can also increase chance of SIBO as well. So why is your digestion poor? There could be infections, there could be other internal stressors. Food allergens can have a similar effect as well, of course. And then, just if you really have poor digestion, even sometimes plant fibers and plants anti-nutrients could be enough in some people, whether it's salicylates or phenols or oxalates. Again, it's not the first place I go because it's a little bit more nuanced, right? Usually just switching to a paleo template and cutting out grains, legumes, and dairy and processed sugar and food's a great start. Some people, if they have more gut inflammation or maybe some IBS or irritable bowel disease going on, something more nuanced with the gut, we kind of have to dive a little bit deeper. And so I kind of have my 6R approach that I've been using for over a decade to work on this stuff. So first R is removing the bad foods. This can be nuanced. It can be simple like a paleo template or something more nuanced. We're replacing enzymes and acids and bile support so we can break down our foods better. That's the second R. We may add in some motility enhancing support there too. Third R, we're repairing the gut lining and the hormones. And that's important. If the gut lining is very inflamed, we got to heal the gut lining. If we have very low adrenal or thyroid issues, that may make it hard for us to generate energy, to engage in anabolic metabolism, to put out the fire of inflammation. Fourth are removing infections. So we go after microbes, whether it's H. pylori or SIBO or fungal overgrowth or maybe parasitic infections. So really important first step. Fifth are repopulate, reinoculate good bacteria. Really healthy, good probiotics, very important. We always want to do the weeding and then do the seeding afterwards, right? We want to get our car washed and then waxed. There's an order of operation there, okay? Most people to take the fourth R, the remove R, and they want to do that first. It's the biggest mistake. And then 6R is retesting to make sure that we are infection-free, make sure there's no other lingering infections present, and also to make sure we knocked it out in the first place. So again, this is Dr. J here. Hope you're enjoying today's video. If you are, put your comments down below. If you want to reach out and work with myself or my colleagues, link down below as well. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Really appreciate it. And we'll open it up for a couple of questions here for y'all too, okay? Links down below if you want to dive in deeper with myself. K. Gupta writes in, last week I have diarrhea in the morning and constipation rest of the day. This is happening every day for 1 week, no apparent reason. What do you think might be the reason? So if it's just happening in the morning out of the blue for the last week, it could be number one, are there any new foods? Any new food allergens you could have eaten? That's number one. Number two, did you eat any bad food where you got sick? What happened the first day you got diarrhea? Did you get any food that was questionable? So either a food allergen or a gut bug. And obviously there could be some significant stressor that also may have shut down your digestion. It's hard to say. Those are a couple of things I just kind of throw out of the gates. When people have gut infections, you know, there are some people that are like, hey, I went to Mexico, I went to Indonesia or Bali, and I ate this meal, and man, I had loose stools, and I felt so bad, and I'm still recovering. I've never been the same since, right? And then we have a very delineated history where we can say, yeah, something happened there. And then others, it's like, yeah, over time, I just was stressed, and there's no really acute pattern. Everything just kind of happened very slowly. And most people are like that, where a lot of their symptoms happen slowly, and it's hard to connect where the infection plugged into their history. But usually there's some level of an infection, and a lot of times it's opportunistic, where it's there, but as your immune system gets weaker because of stress, because of poor diet, because of sleep, whatever, now that infection starts to wear on your body and stress you out more. Of course, it can always be acute too, right? It can happen both sides. And again, where are the vectors for these things? Like, where do you get exposed to the infection? 4 major things: people, pets, food, and water. People, pets, food, water, okay? So obviously, intimacy and interacting with other people on an intimate level. Pets, if you lick your pet, let your pet lick your face, things like that, right? They're licking the other dog's butt, they're licking your face. It's always possible there. Water, bad water, right? You know the song, Don't Drink the Water in Mexico. And then food, of course, like bad sushi, questionable food, all that stuff is going to be a big reason why you may get infected. Questions so far? A friend is extremely tired and at 6 in the evening, so much so he goes to bed at 7 but wakes up at 2 a.m. and can't get back to sleep. How to correct this? That's an adrenal issue. So get your adrenals looked at. There's probably some aberrant cortisol rhythm. So of course, fix the diet, fix the blood sugar stuff. That's important, but need to get on adrenal program. So how to get the adrenals tested? Yeah, so blood oxygen's very low. There could be an anemia. I don't know how poor someone's diet is, right? If someone's diet's poor, if their blood sugar's up and down, all of that can create stress. Is it possible to have ulcerative colitis with that episode? I mean, ulcerative colitis is an irritable bowel disease. Usually that happens chronically. That's like happens over, decades. I doubt that would have happened acutely. I would look at foods and other stressors like I mentioned before. What causes dandruff dermatitis? So that's seborrheic dermatitis. It's typically fungus, typically candida. And yes, it is fungal overgrowth, yeah, and hormonal imbalances can predispose that, especially more vaginal, like birth control pill and stuff like that can for sure. So you have to look at the gut. If it's in your hair, topically hit it with a good herbal tea tree oil shampoo. I like one by ART Naturals or Purely Northwest. There's a company called, I think, Maple Organics makes one too that's really good. And then fix the gut. Work on the gut stuff too. If your gut's doing really good, it may just be a topical thing too.